You're here, Andreas. Do your job.
Oh, we're alive. We're all live. Welcome to the Dresden Files podcast, Writers Room Part 3. You can catch us live every Saturday, but more about that in the end.
That's it. Wow, we're really getting more efficient.
He's out of
So,
practice. He hasn't been here.
No, I usually save it for the end, right?
I mean, you save some things for the end. I'm just saying that's like a third as much as I remember. But
You got to save the quality stuff for the end.
I don't know.
people
It's
stay
been
the whole
it's
time.
been a few weeks. Give me a little time to get back into the swing.
No, you
Right?
don't have an
Yeah.
excuse.
yeah, I mean, you were rested from last week, right? So glad you're doing better.
Thank you.
Speaking of previously on the Dresden Files, we ended with like 15, 20 minutes of speculation about the nexus point where Dresden goes down to South America to fight vampires instead of staying in Chicago to fight vampires.
That's
Very
a nice
different.
time.
Yeah, right. Yep. So that was the end of chapter 14 for those following along. And then into chapter 15, Dresden had bad dreams. And interestingly about this is some woman came to save him from his bad dreams. And
Mama.
there's basically nothing in here, except for the almost certain fact that it's mom, in some way. I mean, maybe it's an angel, and stuff like that, but we're not quite to that point yet, right? Where we've got Lashiel running around breaking the rules, so we're gonna have the angels running around fixing shit. Like
Really, the
that's
question
coming,
there.
but
The question there is just: is that the bloodline imprint that hasn't been revealed yet of a construct of the mom, or is it her actual soul from beyond?
ooh,
Like,
yeah,
I would say the construct because the souls they very rarely get to communicate with the living, and like his dad is allowed to under like very specific circumstance, right? One time or something in one book.
mhm.
So I would guess the construct.
It also depends. Like, so Margaret's not necessarily playing by the rules, right? That's kind of one of her main things. Whereas Dad very much was playing by the rules, right? So we know, certain creatures have reached out to Dad to enable him to do what he does in the dreamscape and everything like that. But Mom had power, so she was kind of able to do her own thing. But
It is also possible that it was some effect of Leah. It may
Sure.
not need to be Margaret. Of
he
he's
would have
having bad
recognized
dreams.
her, though.
Yes, but if it
Yeah,
was
Leah would
necessary for him to actually have rest, for him not to recognize that Leah, because Leah was still Death Fairy Godmother.
Sure.
Well, no, she's on his side at this point. Because dreams have an interaction with the Never Never, there could have been a connection to Fairy. Leah and or Mab or anyone else that has a connection to him or a fealty or owing a promise. Like, it does seem very likely to me that it is Margaret, but may
It's
not.
it's worth entertaining other possibilities for sure. But yeah, I think, I mean, it just, she comes up a lot in this book otherwise as well, right? A lot of people make comments and references, and like, obviously Nicodemus, chief among them, right? And stuff like that. So worth kind of pointing out.
Is he
And
like he worked with her or something? Which I kind of feel like that's bullshit. But unless it was like in a skin game kind of circumstance.
I was gonna say, yeah, like, it
I don't
totally
think it's
could be,
bullshit at all.
right? I mean, you got to think she was also with Lord Wraith, right? So it's like, did Lord Wraith like, loan her out, at times, kind of like what he's trying to do with Thomas in the duel, right?
Well, and even as manipulative as Chauncey was, it's not like he was like, I doubt he was straight up lying when he said, "Yeah, we were kind of looking forward to having her down here." Like, she did plenty of bad shit, I'm sure.
Right. Or at least, misguided shit or something. But yeah, I was gonna say something else, but that's gone with that whole, migraine thing. So but yeah, so we had Mom, presumably. What I was going to say is, like, because TV show, if we include this, by the time we do this, we need to have what our answer is going to be if it hasn't been answered in the books, because we'll need to get the casting right, you know, or we can
You can-
auto tuner or something, you know, with the
Yeah, you can fudge it a little bit by not showing like a face and just kind of
Shadowy
like
figure.
a voice, ambiguous
But then,
type of
man, our
voice.
IMDb is going to blow up. It'd be like, see, in season 5, episode 13, they had a different woman cast as what turned out to be Harry Dresden's mother because those idiots didn't know because they were slaves to linear time. Fools. So, yeah.
I mean, yes, by the time that we
IMDb's
get
rough, man.
this, by the time we get this up off the ground, we should probably have an answer to this. We will have known. We will have the time travel book. We will know who fixed Little Chicago.
Hopefully.
We will know who
We've
this
hired
was.
Jim as a consultant.
I gotta say, you're pretty pessimistic that we're not working on this in the next year or two. So, you know, or you're optimistic that he's going to get them books done in the next year or two.
I was going to say, I think she's optimistic that we're doing anything at all.
Yeah.
We are getting a new book next year.
Yeah,
Lord be
supposedly. So,
Up until we see a date, I'm not holding my breath.
yeah,
You mean
Buddies,
up until he comes on
what
and
you
gives
ne-
us signed copies?
what you need to realize is that this is the second, if not third time in the last like 5 years that somebody's been like, you know, around the September, October timeframe. Oh, did you hear? He says he's going to send it to the publisher. And then, you know, 6 months from now means that it'll be out for my birthday. So I haven't forgotten all the broken promises. So I'll believe it when he tweets it's done. Or,
It does seem
you know,
like every year he says, "I'll have it done by the end of the year."
right.
That's a great goal, but it doesn't
Yeah.
seem confirmed very often.
Maybe he's got one of those things where it's like, you know, he's thinking like, oh yeah, I've got, you know, on my normal cadence and whatever. And then it's like, bro, the holidays are between here and there. And even though like writing is a pretty flexible job compared to some, you know, like
Still
you're
takes
going to have
time.
family obligations and, you know,
It
your dog
just doesn't-
needs to celebrate Christmas, you know.
Side comment about like a NaNoWriMo National Novel Writing Month that they put in November because the alliteration is really, really important. It's like,
Yeah.
you could have chosen a different month
Right.
to make it as a gigantic group because everybody's losing like 4 days to the holidays, no matter what.
At a minimum. Yeah.
Yeah.
So 3 days to the coma, you know. So
Yeah. And that's
All right.
without family drama.
I am
Yeah.
so looking forward to Thanksgiving dinner this year.
nice. Good.
When this is Thanksgiving it's the
2 weeks.
20
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanksgiving Day is the 28th.
Yeah.
I was gonna say 26, but 28 was close.
We're off to a good start because I've made it 2 lines through my notes and it's been 8 minutes. So we're on a roll.
Well, it's your job to
great
keep it
pace.
on pace.
That's what I'm doing. You know, to go ahead and fire shots while I'm cracking the whip.
Well, you notice
Good
this
timing.
didn't happen when Andreas wasn't here. I'm just noting.
We saved it till the end, like professionals. All right. So he goes to Michael's house, which is widely considered a bad idea, but here he is anyway. He pretty much wakes up, gets ready, goes to Michael's house to inquire about getting a second because there's this whole inconvenience with the duel thing that regardless of whether Chicago bursts into flames through prophecy, he's still going to have to fight a vampire, presumably. We get
Protocol, man.
Yeah, we get the improbable description of Michael's house for its location. It's got a backyard with a tree house, which is definitely proof of, you know, preternatural
Divine
abilities,
intervention.
right?
Yeah. In Chicago to have a backyard and a tree big enough for a tree house. Professionally built by a carpenter.
Yeah. And all to himself, you know, like you get some of the group homes like Dresden, maybe they've got a little bit of backyard or something. But while Dresden's there, he decides he doesn't want to go into the front door or to the, maybe he knocked, something like that. But the whole situation's very eerie for him because he's never been at their house while nobody's been there. And so he's already kind of on edge. And then he hears something kind of like skittering on the roof or something like that. And so he hears footsteps behind him. And he's been kind of having a week. So he gets all spooked and decides that he's going to climb up the treehouse and wait and watch who it is. And then the Who starts climbing the ladder to follow him up there.
So Dresden.
And it's Molly. So
Yeah. But Dresden, a grown man of 6'9" in a long leather duster, is climbing up a ladder meant for children to
Yes.
a treehouse meant for children.
Yeah, but I mean, he's always
Built-
been big baby. What's the difference?
Yeah, but it's
Built
also big family,
by
right?
a
So the treehouse is big.
carpenter. It's
I mean,
built
sure.
by a carpenter.
But it is also of the size meant for 4-year-olds to get into, not 6'9".
Not
When you act like a 4-year-old, you climb like a 4-year-old.
Are you saying
That is
that
fair.
you don't think Michael's going up there to play with his kids? That's made so adults
Fair
can
point.
get up there.
Yeah.
Michael is not his size.
Like it full on has like railings and stuff like that, right? You know, like he followed
And
OSHA. He's
Wi-Fi.
he
It has a
basically
full
took
porch
a
and shit.
house and
Oh,
put it
really?
in a tree. Yeah. Therefore, treehouse. But yeah,
Whoa.
of all the weird shit in this book, this is not chief among them. So
Not
you know,
yet,
So yeah,
but
But it is second tier,
It's-
clearly.
it'll just be a heck of a thing for our for our props guys to have to build, where they're like, "What, you want me to put that up there?"
mhm. But just
What
for
is this,
safety. It never comes
1950?
back.
Nobody builds tree houses. Although, after we build the tree house, we could probably sell it to some 20-year-old as a studio apartment.
Right, $5,000 a month for rent. So yeah,
That's really cheap.
so Molly catches him in the treehouse, and he had his blasting rod out and everything. That's how spooked he was, right? So she gets all surprised, but doesn't really twig to the fact that she almost got evaporated. And they start talking. He's still got the handcuff link on from the boat as well. And so while they're talking, Molly's like, "Oh, hey, we should talk, but if you want, you can say bleep instead of the fun words." And then she takes his, handcuffed hand and starts trying a bunch of different handcuff keys. And he's like, "Well, for starters, where the bleep did you get a bunch of handcuff keys?" Think about this, Harry. Do you really want to know the answer to that question? So this is where she suggests whether or not they're, fun time handcuffs or the other kind, so.
Mhm. Yes, because he's talking to 14-year-old Molly of his relationship problems with Susan.
Right.
And that the whole vampire thing makes it very dangerous. And yes,
Just
primed
tie
with
her
the
up.
idea of handcuffs. I mean,
So,
she's being
I would
very
like it-
logical about this, but
right.
I would like it noted that all handcuffs are fun time handcuffs until the situation changes.
Thank you for revealing that about yourself. So, yeah.
It's in
so
the same
she's-
way all handcuffs are not fun time handcuffs until the situation changes. They are Schrodinger's tool.
Oh, I see. Yeah. Yeah. So she suggests tying her up, so that she won't bite him and whatever. And then, he caps it off with, "This conversation has become way too bleeping disturbing." So, while they're dealing with that, Charity arrives with the sand crawler and the Jawas, and she had gone to the store and everything like that. So they had like Bill and Amanda and no, sorry, he's Bill. So they had little Harry and Amanda, and
because they have a little Harry, and therefore it was Hope. It says, no, you're Bill.
Yeah, right. There you go. Hope
You're
is the
Bill.
one I was forgetting. Yeah,
It's
we
a
already
great
have a
running
Harry.
gag. I think even is it in Changes or is it like, no, not Changes.
In-game.
It's yeah.
Is it?
Hey, Bill.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah, because she was chasing dinosaur cowgirl Maggie running around, who was riding Daniel, and it's just hi Bill, and just runs away.
Nice. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I remember the scene kind of, just not where it was. So that's quite the throwback. All right, so she conscripts Dresden to help unload the van because she's got ice cream melting, and just like shoves bags in his hand, and he's like, "I might be murdered. Like that now is not a good time," and she's not listening because she doesn't care.
Why is now a good time for him to interrupt her grocery run? Like,
right? He was really hoping Michael would be there,
Also,
and somehow
he's-
inexplicably she wouldn't.
He's essentially, I don't know if she's not. She let the kid be named Harry, right? But it's not until he saves Molly that he becomes family to her, I think, right?
Yeah. She did not let him be named Harry. So
she was a little unconscious when the paperwork was signed, and
Right.
they called the kid Hank anyway. But
yeah. Yeah. So then Amanda names him Bill, and
Bill.
they go into the kitchen, and you get the whole scene everybody was fond of her, like, starting a crock pot meal or something like that, and then in the middle starting yet another meal. And it's like most of us can't cook like once for ourselves, let alone both meals at the same time.
Yeah, for 7 children plus 3 or 4 adults, and there's secondary meals because she doesn't know when Michael and Sonia and Shiro are going to come back and descend and eat everything else that she hasn't cooked for the children anyway. This
Chiro stayed
woman
behind at least, so yeah.
Oh, right, he's helping with the baby. Like groceries and her kitchen must be a sight to behold.
Sure. Yeah, it probably looks like a mini Costco in there. So, yeah. So Harry basically tells him like, oh, I really need to talk to Michael, and Charity tells him off because this is her and she doesn't like him, and they start angrily chopping vegetables together, and Dresden tells Shiro that he needs a second, but he was really hoping for Michael, and Shiro asks Charity, would Michael help him? Well, my husband is sometimes an idiot, so and then so Shiro says, if Michael would do it, then I'll do it. And Dresden is surprised at Charity about it because it's like, you hate me, and I don't understand why you would say that. You could have said nothing, you could have lied, you could have done whatever. And it's like, Charity's like, I don't expect you to understand whether or not I can personally stand you. It has no bearing on what choices I make. Michael is your friend. He would risk his life for you. It would break his heart if you came to grief, and I will not allow that to happen. So then Charity helps do some first aid for Dresden for some cuts, and she uses iodine. So
yes, because he was chopping angrily, and he's not as good as very skilled at chopping angrily on carrots and stuff the way that she is. So I'm sure she does that all the time,
right?
With skill and precision.
Yeah. And he classic mistaking a finger for a carrot, So yeah. So next chapter, I believe he goes back to his place to prepare for the duel. He gets all his magical gear on, everything like that. But ultimately, basically, he'd be heading towards Max. But instead, let's see. Oh no, this is before that. So I think he's ironing stuff out with Shiro, and Shiro makes the phone call, and they figure out where to meet and everything like that. Then Harry leaves. He goes back to his apartment, and Murphy kicks in the door, comedy style, right? Not rom-com. What's the other one? Anyway, the whole when your house and all the neighbors just show up, and it's like, I guess we'll just leave the front door unlocked so that Urkel can walk in here.
Sitcom.
So there you go. Thank you. Words, law. So anyway, that's like one of my favorite tools in my toolkit that 4 people understand. So
it is inarguably one of the best, probably one of the 3 best ones that you can just throw into any conversation.
Right. And nobody even needs to understand. They just are kind of like, you're a crazy fairy, aren't you? And like, that's where I learned it. So yeah.
How dare you? But yes.
Right.
How dare you also? Who told you?
Yeah. Murphy has an amulet, and now she's got to show up. And basically, at this point in the book, right, we've had 3 or 4 different independent groups of people, more or less, all tell Dresden that he's in grave danger and he should give up this case, right? So it's Murphy's turn. So she's got an amulet. She can open his door and get past his wards. She's on vacation because it was go on vacation or be fired. Internal Affairs is in town with some other big wigs, and there's some shakeup going in SI, and Rudolph, this is the first time he gets fingered as the rat who is telling on Murphy and Dresden and everything like that. Murphy asks him to quit the case. Wait, somebody threatened you with me? That's new. So it's like, you're asking, pretty please, with sugar. So, yeah. So they have that conversation. Of course, Dresden isn't going to stop. And the typical, like, you got to trust me, and at this point she kind of can, because we're past summer night, right? So we're there, and then Susan calls, and she found the Marriott, which was the note that Dresden got from the boat that was like Marriott 1045, and what does that mean? And then he's got a full day, right? He's got to prep for the duel at 8, and he's got to change at 8:30 because the gala is at 9. So what's a girl to
Change
do?
into what?
Into a tux. So
yeah, it's somehow Susan. I mean, of course, Susan can just summon a tux out of nowhere for someone of his dimension,
like a limo. So
yeah,
she's
kind of a Deus Ex Machina in this book. She just like shows up to solve some problems and cause some others, and then just goes away.
Yeah, and then cause the ultimate problem. So, yeah. I mean, she's a spy, right? So nobody ever asks James Bond where he gets all his stuff. Like, you get to see Q, but you don't get to see the people that fit him for tuxes all the time, and his spy gear and stuff. She's a spy, so she's got all these connections and stuff now. But I don't know. Yeah, it's Fellowship of St. Giles is a superpower, obviously.
And they have slightly darker black turtlenecks.
Yes. Thank you. That's super topical and relevant for me right now. Yeah. All right. So he leaves his apartment, goes and plops into his office, almost has to fight the night security guard to open up the night drop box so that he can get a sample of the shroud, which is like a single thread that's like 4 inches long or something like that. Then he goes by Michael's again and picks up Shiro, and Shiro's got, I'm pretty sure it's like a black gi with like a white, undershirt is how I remember it. And then they talk about, Shiro's fought several duels before, Black Court, Red Court, Jade Court. What? Nobody's ever heard of that before. He tries to talk Dresden out of fighting, because not fighting is always smarter. And then they go to McAnally's, because where else are you going to have, a neutral...
he doesn't have a castle yet, so there's really no point in going anywhere
also
else.
Not neutral, but yeah.
Also, I would like to jump ahead to that. For the future book, we're going to need to divert a significant amount of the budget to building an actual castle.
I thought we had infinite budget.
Yeah, we're going to divert our infinite budget to build the castle.
I am telling Andreas ahead of time to get his government shit together so that we can...
But you're the one doing the budgeting. Like, you have to...
Yeah, with your country's money, allegedly.
You negotiate with my government.
Not you're the one that speaks the Herkadurka language.
I can't negotiate with them. They'll just take my money away.
That's even better.
So it has to be you.
How committed to this bit are we? Are we going to spend a couple of years building a castle, or are we going to buy a castle to fly across the pond to have it planted down somewhere?
The fact that you consider this a bit has already worried me about your commitment to...
The thing that Marcone was said to have done was he found a castle in Scotland and he moved it stone by stone to Chicago. So we figure out which castle that Jim was thinking of, because he didn't tell us the name, because he didn't want us to invade it as tourists. Right. And so now we're just...
But we're not. We're invading it as multi-billionaires.
I was going to say, but I think Scotland probably wants to keep that castle, would be my guess.
Depends. Would $20 change your mind?
Well, when I went to Ireland, they had programs where if you were moving there and you wanted to buy the castle and preserve it and renovate it, you would get tax breaks or something. Yeah. So if that counts overseas, then we can bring one of those over.
I think it's in Spain or Italy. They pay you to buy a castle.
Oh, wow.
I mean, those sound like great places to live for a while anyway. So I would take a castle in Spain or Italy.
Yeah. They're they're dilapidated. Nobody owns them. They need people to take care of them. So they're like, we'll give you a sum of money or a big tax break or whatever it is to if you get this.
Sweet,
nice
retirement plan,
right?
Joke's on me. I'm never retiring.
Yeah, you were working on a Saturday.
Dresden had to get there early so that he could watch Kincaid get there before Ortega's crew and search the place for, all sorts of shenanigans, which is also kind of fun because it's like if he's a mortal, right, and somebody's there under a veil, like what's he going to do about it? He's got something, right, because this is kind of his shtick, but it's never really implied or alluded to. So
you'd think that something about the accorded neutral territory or something to do with Max, of like they don't expect there to be a veil, and for good reason, or at least it shouldn't be a
then why
problem.
is he checking it all?
Certain amount of paranoia is necessary and comforting, but a veil.
Well, I was going to say Morgan does the same thing when they go there because he brings out the sight and everything. So,
right,
but he's also very paranoid.
He's extremely paranoid. They are one of a kind in a way. With blood rights, the thing that causes problems in Deadbeat is that no one saw under a veil that because Mavra was taking pictures that was then going to be used as blackmail. And so Dresden or Kincaid did not check for veils. And so, yeah, he can't check for veils here, or at least presumably. But like, maybe you'd hope that just like you don't need to when you're at accorded neutral territory.
Just worth pointing out, I feel like that puts a bounds on his power, So Dresden asks about Ivy. It's past her bedtime. I'm her proxy. So, so Kincaid's going to handle all the negotiations, everything like that.
Very convenient for Ivy.
Yep. This is where we get to see Thomas, for the first time this book, I think, for the first time since pretty much the last time, right? They all sit down together at a table, and then Kincaid presents his paperwork from Ivy, which is done in crayon. So another note for the props department: have your 4-year-old work on this one. So
no, it's beautifully written. I would imagine it's just in crayon because that's what you had available.
I was going to say, we have to have someone with impeccable penmanship, and also, well, maybe we can use colored pencils, crayon, just to...
sure.
Maybe there are doodles on the side, marginalia.
Right. Yeah, so mostly Shiro and Thomas have to negotiate the duel with Kincaid, and then Ortega and Dresden go have a drink at the bar. You get the double take types of stuff where I think it's Shiro first, and then you get it with Ortega second, with the whole like, let's drink Max beer, and wait a minute, then we take a second deeper drink, and man, that's so good. Which is kind of funny, but they talk, and they almost get to a thing where it's like they can kind of like take a measure of each other, and neither of them really want to fight the duel, but like Ortega is such a strategist, right? He's not, I don't want to fight the duel because I don't want to kill people. I don't want to fight the duel because or like, we wish this didn't happen because we wish we had done a sucker punch and killed you all in the night, in another decade or so instead of 3 years ago. So Ortega makes the mistake of saying that they're not so different and everything like that, and then Dresden asks the smart question for once, which is, do you feed on kids? Oh, it's the safest way. We've got to spread the feeding around so that we don't hurt people. Yeah, see, I don't fucking hurt kids. This conversation is over, so we're done. But yeah, like, that's it. So now we're going to fight. That ends chapter 17. Chapter 18 is kind of the aftermath. Kincaid just like walks out the door. I think he gets in a cab and just leaves. Ortega, leaves with some other, typical, like, I guess we'll see on the battlefield type of thing. Dresden and Thomas talk for a little while, and you get the little nuggets about, this is how much that Daddy respects the Red Court because he sent his least favorite, child and vassal. And then Shiro and Dresden talk about the war, and Shiro tries to tell him that the war's not his fault. Of course it was a trap. Of course you were set up, and all of that stuff. So they talk about the parable of 3 blind men and the elephant, and going with that. So you ever heard of that? Wait, is that the one? I'm guessing that's a no. So, And then Shiro leaves. He definitely gets a cab back. They probably talked about this off screen, but this is where Susan and Martin pick him up. And I don't remember the context, but Dresden, I think, says he's the Bruce Lee of fun. So, because Susan's given him a rough time about, not being a very fun date and that sort of thing. So, he's got to get dressed, in this gigantic tux, being a gigantic person in the back seat of this limo and stuff. And all that being said, like, I think the fit of the tux is adequate. I don't think it's good, right? So it's like they just got him. What's the biggest tux you have? Okay, let's do that. So, and again, Chicago, right? So like, maybe this was reserved for one of the, one of the Bulls players when they come in or something like that. So, I get repeatedly, I get repeatedly surprised and impressed that bowling shoes fit these days when I go out. Like every bowling alley has like, at least one pair of gigantic shoes now. So
they don't just give you clown shoes.
Yeah, right.
I was going to say COVID hit the circus world hard, so they had to get, day jobs at bowling alleys and things like that.
Nice. So they go to the Marriott. They go to the ballroom. So we've got Dresden and Susan mostly. There's some well-recognized actor that's in the ballroom. And so I was like, ooh, this is a good spot for a cameo. Well, I was like, can we do Paul Blackthorne? We'll just have Dresden walk past Dresden while he's in there. So he's old and distinguished now. Also, Bob, not too shabby. He's definitely reached the old
Bob would have
now. So
God, what was his name? Yeah, he would have just a really fun type of energy in the background of like holding court with a bunch of journalists or something.
Yeah, he could be. I mean, he's just about like the Hugh Hefner stand-in, right? We could just have some, young extra hanging off his arm and whatever. But
I don't know. I think this is the spot for Marsters.
Terrence
that is
Mann.
Also fair.
So yes, I mean, all great answers, right? We'll see who's got time for us, when it's time to shoot that. So
either him or Robert Downey Jr., one or the other.
Okay, hold on. Nope. This is the part, just like for non-speaking role in the background, Nicolas Cage.
No.
There you go. Yes.
Do it to me.
Accepted. Also, he has to have a line.
No.
I actually, even outside of a line, I just want to have him just do his like, okay, let's do it, so, but anyway. Okay. Yeah, so they go there and it's Dresden, right? And he's a small boy, so they have to go and find food and hors d'oeuvres and stuff like that. And so they go get some tiny sandwiches, and then she's like, remember to smile, chew and smile. What am I, Jackie Chan? So, lots of kung fu references for some reason. But they get champagne and he like takes a sip, but he's like, yep, nope, got to keep my senses. We're not here for hamming around. So
the last time he was at a party, it was poisoned with.
That's fair, but
whatever, vampires.
Yeah, doesn't come up this time. It's just more like, inhibitions, and we're on a mission.
Also, he was just at a bar, so
True. He's already had his one beer.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so they go around, and Susan's kind of in her element because she worked as a reporter, even though it's like, yeah, but I mean, come on, you worked as a reporter for like, the occult version of the Daily Mail that doesn't really give you connections, but we're pretending here. She's doing the spy thing again. I think that trope just fits. And, she meets people and, the Tsarina of Tokyo or whatever. And, she's leading Dresden around because they've got to mingle and spend some time. Otherwise they'll be suspicious, which is great because having a reporter from the Midwestern Arcane and a 6'9" wizard that is in the phone book, not suspicious at all why they would be there. And it's not Marcone's event, which is the only reason why they get away with it as long as they do, because Marcone sees them and obviously immediately knows there's shenanigans afoot,
Yes.
He doesn't know how, but you're about to make his night less fun. So they get there, he gets there, and they're talking and everything like that. And Dresden is quite confrontational because one of his goons took a shot at him, and he accuses Marcone of being in the know, and Marcone blinks and, is like rattled for like a half a second before. Go ahead.
It is something that Hendrix should have told Marcone. This was Hendrix. He and Marcone have a good relationship. They communicate well. So he should have said, I was going after the priest and accidentally shot at Dresden. So it is a bad thing that Marcone didn't know right here.
Does Hendrix know though? Like, that's another thing. Like,
but I thought Hendrix saw him. I thought like they're like kind of locked eyes in a way like, oh, that was bad.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, but yeah, I mean, there's enough plausible deniability in there, I think. But yeah, that's a good point. Like maybe Dresden just happened to be in the parking garage when they tried to whack the priest, and the priest who was right there in his passenger seat and stuff. Yeah, but it's a good point. I honestly, I was just gonna say I don't even remember the whole this being Marcone's angle. Like I don't remember why the hitman was trying to take a whack at him and all of that stuff. So
I think it was they're trying to go after the priest because the priest was trying to get the shroud back, and Marcone wants the shroud that he's trying to get from the church mice.
Just feels like there are easier, less implication kinds of ways for you to be able to do that. Like
I think I could be wrong because it's been a while even for me to have read this, but I think he knows that that's not a real priest. Like I think that comes out later that he knew something was up with Father Vincent.
Gotcha. Yeah, so it kind of turns into a comedy of errors instead, where they're just like, oh yeah, sorry boss, didn't I tell you that we almost killed your mortal enemy, and et cetera, et cetera. So,
and your favorite cat's paw, and like that person that you're relying on a lot of the time. Yeah. So
right.
Yeah, this connection of Marcone to Father Vincent is a lot of contrivance as of yet, and in TV show we make sure these connections are a bit stronger and more obvious, or at least understandable. They have to be explained at some point.
Gotcha. Yeah. So, this is also where we get Guard introduced on Hendrix's arm and everything like that, and protecting the place versus wayward spirits and stuff like that, because Bob gets totaled in a couple of chapters ago and everything like that, and that gives Dresden quite a bit of pause because it's like, oh, we've stepped up our game a little bit, huh? So, after he rattles Marcone, Marcone retreats and starts, yelling something into a cell phone, and basically sics security on Dresden and Susan. So then they decide to dance away from it. So very, very True Lies, right? We've got to dance our way across the ballroom, and I think this is kind of funny to me because like maybe this is a difference in the time it was written and that sort of thing, or maybe it's just because again we're in the spy genre now. But I think if Marcone told security that he was a credible threat or something like that, rich people or no, they would have taken him out. But this whole like, oh well, we don't want to make a scene for all these rich people that are out with their dates and stuff like that. It's just kind of funny to me. So Susan calls Martin, and there's some back and forth about this barely working because Dresden, and his magical energies and stuff like that. But she tells Martin that they need a distraction in 2 minutes, and then he causes a car crash of some kind. I thought he crashed the limo, but they drive off in the limo again still later, I think. So,
they drive off in a car at some point, but he does, I think, crash another car into like the front of the hotel or something.
Right. Yeah.
It's a distraction, certainly.
Yeah, quite. Yeah, because it's like even security is like, well, shit, that's a bigger bigger problem. We should go look. And hotel staff and everything like that, everybody goes to gawk. So Harry says some comment, and then Susan is like, he has a strong work ethic. So, just some more fun banter. This is where Dresden, they go down one of the hallways and everything like that, down a stairwell, and he sets up a little waddling duck toy as the tracking spell, and wraps the string around and attaches it with some scotch tape, I think, and basically, he puts it down and then puts it in a circle, primes the spell, everything like that, breaks the circle, and then the duck starts waddling around, pointing at wherever they need to go. And they have a quick little conversation like, does the duck know about stairs? Mostly. So then it leads them into a laundry room. And in the back of the laundry room, they find a grate that has had the screws removed, and then it's been put back. And so Dresden opens that up and crawls into it, because now we also got to have Die Hard. So come to the Marriott, have a few laughs. So,
Mm-hmm.
And he goes into the ducks, and he can hear Valmont and Marcone talking on the radio, basically. Should have taken better notes, because I put in here Marcone foreshadowing. Oh yeah. There's some comment about him in a what is this chapter?
You would have been a good king or something.
19. No, it's a comment about like the demons, I want to say. So
this is a very important type of introduction and discussion beforehand. That is, it's quite important. Like, Valmont is trying to extort more money on behalf of the fact that her people have been murdered, and therefore it's Marcone's fault.
Sure.
And he pays it, and it surprises her, because they're like, yeah, that was a lot more money, whatever it was. I don't even think they stated a sum, or if they did, make it more.
Yeah, let's see. Yeah, whatever. I don't know. I should have taken better notes, but yeah, I saw this stand out this time. Great Jupiter's balls. He paid it, because he's talking back to her, so she's like, now you can add an extra $1 million for for being cheeky. So yeah. Yeah, so there's a lot of good back and forth dialogue here, a lot of typical heist types of stuff. What's kind of odd to me, for example, is that she's here in person, but that leads to some fun scenes here in a minute anyway. But she gives a detailed description to Marcone about where to find it, and that it's got an incendiary device, and that she's on her way out of town. Don't try anything, or she'll set it off and everything like that. Marcone is very Lex Luthor here. He's trying to keep his cool, but he's very pissed off, So again, you've altered our arrangement. It does seem to be a seller's market. So
I love that comment.
She's great.
Yeah. Yeah. There are
he's getting extorted by Valmont, as she should. And he knows that Dresden's in the building. That Marcone's blood pressure is just like skyrocketing. There's like no way he comes out of this winning.
Yeah. There are very few people able to speak about taking advantage of me. So. Yeah. Yeah. So Dresden decides he's going to sneak in while she's having this conversation with Marcone, and he tries to hold her up with the duck, So he sticks her with that, and he's trying to get the transmitter, and she's like, "Oh, it's in my left jacket pocket, and you're an idiot." So he tries to reach, and she elbows him and disarms him and everything like that. So Yeah. And she pulls a gun and he's like, "You're not going to shoot me." So she shoots right next to him. And I'm sorry, you were saying?
No, she's not trigger shy,
Yeah.
as she shows in the next minute.
Right. Yeah. Okay, here we go. This is what I was looking for. So, um, let's see. Let's see. It would be bad etiquette to leave a corpse behind for my buyer to clean up. So it seems as though I'll be hand delivering to Marcone. After all, we can't have you running off with what everyone is so excited over. Marcone is the least of your worries. No, actually, he's quite prominent among them. Marcone isn't going to sprout horns and claws and start tearing you apart. I took that as foreshadowing. So, or at least I don't think he is. There's another group after the shroud, like the thing from the ship this morning. So
Marcone didn't sprout horns. That would be
Yet.
you.
I don't know, thorned Namshill? Like, it's not.
But it would ruin his aesthetic. It was just a clash with his outfit.
Marcone.
So, but the thorns.
So what, having a demon in your
are-
head?
No. Having a demon in your head is fine. Showing the demon is a different thing.
Well, he did the eye thing at least. So
Actually,
Yeah.
Justin, do you remember when Angel in the TV show Angel goes to Fred's home dimension, that dimension Fred is in?
and turns
and
into
the-
that weird thing.
That vampire transformation there, that's this weird demon thing with spikes. Maybe it's something like that Thorn and Namshill looks like.
Nice. Yep. So they start to leave, and then that's when basically the Denarians catch up. So let's see. Oh yeah, because they're talking about it, and it's like, what did attack us this morning on the boat? A demon. Wait, like a real demon? And you're some sort of angel, I suppose? Hell no, I'm just working for them. Sort of. Look, I know people who can protect you from those things, people who won't hurt you. They'll help. Then she gives, one of those classic open lines of like, "They can't hurt me anymore." "Oh, really?" says the demon.
Mhm.
So, yeah.
Well, if
Yeah,
that's
no
not a straight line.
Right.
Famous last
Nope.
words every time.
No matter how many times I hear that one, it's always a fresh challenge. So, yeah. So Nicodemus shows up with Cassius, Snake Boy, and Deirdre with him. He starts monologuing, and she starts blasting. So,
So anyway,
yeah. Yep. She shoots him, and he pretty much like staggers and is like all shocked and everything. And then it was like, "Do you have any idea how rude that was?" And then she empties the entire clip into him. So
Yeah,
He,
doesn't he say something of like, "Bullets aren't going to kill me," and then she continues shooting because why wouldn't she?
right. Yeah. And then while he's getting blasted, he's like, "Let's go. I've got things to
Bored.
do." So yeah. 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 Apparently these were all the chapters I read on the airplane. They're a little bit more disjointed than I'd like. So, but Harry tosses the detonator for the incendiary device towards him, but then he does quick and dirty fuego. So we get that whole like, "This is why I have a blasting rod, but I don't right now because it didn't fit in my tux." But it knocks everybody down as a result because, big old burst of flame and concussive force and everything like that. Knocks Nicodemus down, burns Anna Valmont pretty badly as well. She's missing like an eyebrow and half of her face is red and everything like that. Dresden's like dragging her through the vents and everything like that, and they're trying to get back, and Deirdre chases them through the vents. And that's when Susan, puts on her superhero suit. So, because we got more Deus Ex, so we got to see what all those new powers are.
These vents are gigantic.
Right? Yeah.
These vents are hallways.
They got to be at least 3 feet across and 2 feet tall, and we're definitely in movie magic land instead of Like they're almost, yeah. I don't visualize them like this, but that was one of the ridiculous things about Starfield is like the vents are like hallways in that game. You know, it's like you don't even really need to duck your head; you just walk through them and stuff. So, yeah. So Susan fights Deirdre, which is super awesome and kind of hot. And
I do remember that she throws a washing machine that might be
dryer,
running,
but yeah,
a dryer
yeah.
that
ripped it out of the wall and
An
flung it at her,
industrial
you know?
level one, I assume.
Right. Yeah. Yep. Cassius appears in the doorway and he casts that snake spell on Susan, and Dresden, you know, rips him off balance with Ventus Servitas, you know, which is kind of interesting. And then Dresden uses a counter spell on Cassius snakes, which I did not remember, and Tropos. And there's this whole thing about if I put too much power into it, it could feed the spell, and if I don't put enough power into it, you know, all of this stuff. And I was like, well, that's kind of wild, but
Anthropos.
and Tropos, like entropy. So yeah,
It's a Greek word.
makes sense. Yeah,
but it's not Latin.
Sure, it's close enough. What is Dresden?
He's English.
know?
It doesn't matter.
So yeah, yeah.
But he speaks Latin, kind of. So you can't
Right.
use that for magic.
Yeah, in the same way
That's
that I
not
speak your
stopping.
language, he speaks Latin.
Det finns det betyder.
Yeah, so let's see. Susan's tattoos flare up for the first time. They were pretty much invisible up to this point, and then that helps Cassius realize that she's fellowship, and that gives Dresden a bunch of questions that now is not really a good time for. Duh. So yeah, Susan throws the dryer. I say at him, so it must have been at Cassius rather than Deirdre. But she like rips a folding like table, you know, like one of the ironing boards off the wall or something like that, and you know, like hits her in the legs, hits her in the back, and then hits her in the back of the neck and knocks her out that way. Martin shows up, carries Valmont, and then Anduriel grabs Dresden while he's trying to escape, and Dresden gets pistol whipped. So that's where he gets grabbed and taken. So
actually, we don't know how Martin and Susan and Anna Belmont get out of this building, because the getaway that I was thinking of is later. May not be in the same limo. May have been a different stolen car.
right, that's
Maybe
that's
he did
fair.
crash the limo.
Yep, that's fair. So, yep, he's got a strong work ethic. That's how they escaped. So,
Okay.
yep. So this is where Dresden wakes up under the water with Nicodemus and crew. So he's in there for like hours, you know, thrashing around, trying his magic, which he freaking knows better, you know, because like we know this from Grave Peril, let alone you live it. The door opens up and he's blinded by goons with torches. You know, Nicodemus is doing more bad guy monologuing, so he's very not necessarily typically the, you know, typical villain with the monologuing. Well, it's everything but the monologuing, right? Like he doesn't fall into all the cliches. He's aware of the cliches, but he definitely likes to still monologue, and maybe that's just a factor of the fact that he's more or less invincible, right? So it's like you can shoot him in the middle of a monologue and it doesn't really slow him down. So he just kept the practice. But this is where, you know, Nicodemus calls him Little Maggie's youngest, and he's like, youngest? As far as I know, I'm the only. So good job, Dresden. Start figuring that out. And Nicodemus brings in the most vile, torturous implements known to man: pancakes and strawberries and bacon and coffee. So, I mean, I'm hungry just thinking about it. So,
Right.
Bacon and pancakes together. Shake my head.
I'm sorry. What now?
Excuse me?
Are we about to shame you again live on the air? Like, do you not do bacon and pancakes?
I mean, I've had it before, but it's not a breakfast thing here, really. Pancakes, nor is serving it with bacon is a normal thing either.
But you put salad on pizza?
Also, the pancakes we have are, French style crepes pancakes. We don't really
Listen,
do the
we've
thick ones.
established a long time ago that Andreas and culinary sense do not go together.
You can have crepes and bacon too. Why wouldn't you?
Right.
Oh yeah, no, that's how I've had it when I've had it. I was just saying that our normal pancakes, our regular pancakes, the ones we usually have, are more crepes, not the thick ones, the American style.
I can't wait until we do the Dresden Files musical, and then Andreas is over here eating real pizza and pancakes and bacon for the first time, and he's like, "A whole new world," and he just starts. And the animals come out of the gutter to talk to him and stuff. But yeah,
Well, he's part of the European Union, so he's not allowed to have half this shit.
right. Yeah. Did you have your government mandated cinnamon ration this morning? So.
Oh yeah. Shot it straight into my veins.
I was going to say, how do you even have French toast if you can only have cinnamon once a year? Is that what you just save it for?
We don't really have French toast. I mean,
Yeah,
Of course
we
you
know
don't,
about,
because you
but
have
it's not-
French pancakes, which are just crepes, and
I don't mean to derail the conversation into a.
And yet
let's
you
flame-
do,
let's
every time you
flame
open your
me.
mouth.
Let's get back to it, shall we?
So anyway, Nicodemus brought real breakfast because he's had 2,000 years to learn what that is. No crepes, Anyway, yeah. So Nicodemus talks about Dresden being all tied up and under the water because he's not an idiot and he's not going to underestimate Dresden like several other dead, villains have. I think he specifically lists them off that it's like Dresden's taken out several other, mages of equal caliber and one vampire lord, which is like technicality. Come on, it does seem like the Red Court does have a merit-based system where Bianca did have to level up a little bit, but I mean it's not like we saw her do very much, So this is one of those we're getting the outsider's perspective on how scary Dresden is instead of all the close calls and the fact that
Her being
he
a
left
vampire
Bianca's
lord
with no
was more
shoes and
political,
one
right?
sock
It's
on.
not power.
So
In
it was
terms of
power
that.
though. She had a sorceress teacher, so she very much did.
She
have
was
power.
strong. It's just when I think the vampire, I think what we saw in Chichen Itza,
Sure.
is it the third level? Isn't those the vampire lords?
the loons, the Lords of Adernite.
No, they're second level, right? Lords of Iron is second level. Below that is. Isn't
Like,
that how it
I
is?
guess that would have been like Ariana and stuff, right?
Yeah, that's what I mean. Ariana, that level. That's like vampire lords.
Yeah, but he ends up curb stomping her. Like Mavra's
Right.
better than she is when it comes
And
to
I was like-
Ariana is above
Ariana,
Ortega.
like Ortega, who is also not going to make it out of this book, right? So
These Ortegas lived for a long time, and then they met the rest, and that's really
right. Yeah, good times. So, along with respecting his potential capabilities, he also respected his mother. So we got to have more of that. And then he also whines a little bit, which is funny, which is like, wait a minute, are you talking about the prophecy from Ulsharavas, which is like, why would you give him your source like that? But he's like, do you have any idea how difficult it is to waylay an angelic messenger? So,
And to only give it partial information.
right.
Insane.
Yeah. So he's going to keep Dresden around because he needs someone of a certain metaphysical mass. And then Deidre comes in and all sorts of creepy and, gross and everything like that. And the whole like passively psychotic with the whole like, oh, can I kill him, father? Like, no, he's mine. So then Nicodemus gives him the answer that Dresden couldn't give Ulsharavas, which is the reason why you do this is because you're afraid of becoming a monster. You think that if you get any power or any, financial security or anything like that, that your darker tendencies will win out. And so, you don't stray from the left-hand path, so,
The left-hand path is the path of evil, so straight to the left-hand path would be. It's a specific phrase.
yeah,
If you're going to say that, you want to.
backwards. So
I think, yeah. It's just one of those things. If you're going to do it, as a TV show and edit, get the exact phrasing correctly.
Well, I would have it in front of me when I was doing it, so
Just one of those days.
wow, geez, left hand appears in this 6 times. So
Because he has his shield bracelet on his left hand and something.
True. Yeah.
yeah, well, Nicodemus also gestures. The come along gesture is with his left hand. So
Yes.
anyway, yeah, stray from the right hand path. My bad entirely. So yeah, he has one of his goons come up with a box with a coin in it. We don't know enough about which one it is, but it's probably Lashiel's coin, right? So,
Almost certainly. I mean,
Yeah.
Nicodemus says something of, this is the one we think would fit your personality, a hot woman.
right. Well, yeah, I mean, it is a little interesting that it's like Nicodemus is so sure of the tactics and everything like that. He's like, all you got to do is pick up the coin and join me for breakfast, and we'll let you walk out the door, because he knows that's all it will take, and everything like that. So
He is kind of doing the ploy that Marcone does in a few books of like, I'm just going to help you on your way. Just
Sure.
go do these things, but talk to me once in a while. We can coordinate.
I mean, angels, right? They're super persuasive and knowledgeable and stuff. Like, even if it's a couple 100 years, you'll come back around. So, yeah. But he's also doing the high pressure sales tactics with Dresden. So, like, you got to make your decision by the end of my meal, and otherwise we'll just slit your throat and be done with it. And he's like, well, I guess I've had enough breakfast. And so he gets up to do the needful. And Deidre's like, don't you need the silver bowl? And he's like, oh, what a fool I am. I swear I'd forget my head if an angel hadn't attached it. And
What am I, Ursil?
yeah. Oh, I guess before that, he was asking Dresden for his last chance and whatever. And Dresden says, lead us not into temptation. But deliver us from evil. Isn't that how it goes? So, are you certain, Dresden? This is your very last chance. I'm certain. Fuck off, Nick. So that's where he says, I suppose I've had enough breakfast. And then he walks over. We'll end here. It's the start of chapter 22, but he gets saved because he's an idiot. Like, I don't know. Like, he got this whole thing together. He's got goons to help him set this up. They brought the torches, but they forgot the sacrificial bowl.
Well, they accidentally put oatmeal in it at first, and that's what he was eating out of.
Right.
Yeah. If Nick forgot the bowl because it was like on the table or something, and he just forgot the ritual thing, really, it is a good question of how did their hideout get found by Susan within like a couple of hours? Like,
well, that gets answered. So that you guys don't have to sit and waiting for the next 2 weeks. Shiro brought them. So
right.
So
gotcha.
yeah, he went into a meditative trance, and I've
This
seen
is
Michael
where he
do that a couple of
stays
times.
and Dresden goes.
Yeah. I don't recall offhand how they catch up with Shiro, because Shiro had supposedly already left, but maybe they went back to Michael's
to the Carpenter household, or Shiro just knows like, okay, I got to go this way right now.
Right. Yeah, I mean, that might literally be it. Like, Dresden gets taken, and they all get in the car, and like Shiro's in the front side passenger seat, and they're like, "Who the f are you?" Dresden's in danger. Okay, we'll go with this guy then. So, yeah, but yep, that gets us up to chapter 22. So, getting there,
Making progress.
We're getting there.
Yeah.
Should I do the thing?
Sure.
This has been an episode of the Dresden Science Podcast. If you want to support us, you can support us on Patreon at patreon.com/brokenjars. You'll get access to our Discord server. We are live every Saturday at 1 p.m.
Did you intentionally
Eastern.
look to sound like a flight attendant during this one?
No, I'm just 1 p.m. Eastern. Well, now you drive me. What was I gonna say? I was like doing this from memory.
You're a flight attendant. Think on the fly.
Emergency exit 2, you're right.
Good.
I don't know if there is anything else now.
Well, now
1
there
p.m.
isn't, as you said so.
Eastern. Give us a like, a subscribe. Leave us a comment about what you want to see. Or support us on Patreon, like I said, and you can come on the Discord and say what you want there. Like more of me.
Nobody wants that.
All right. Next week will be Film and Alchemist. Again, I swear I'll do the homework this time. And everyone will attend this
Allegedly.
time, right?
Oh, is that why it was?
Allegedly.
No, it was because you didn't do the homework? It wasn't because...
No,
I
it was
wasn't
actually
there,
because
then it
everybody else failed to show up. I would have winged it if everyone
Hey.
got there. But, like, no.
I
3
got
people
there.
canceled, and it's like, okay, I guess I'm not doing anything.
I came and just,